Yeah. How
I'm
sir?
finding you.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm the president and chief executive officer of Core Communicators Broadcasting. We own and operate 7 radio stations, FM stations throughout the country. Here in Atlanta, Charlotte, North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia, Albany, Georgia, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Here in Atlanta, we own Streets 94.5 and Mix 87.7. I'm a 30-year radio vet. I've worked for Radio 1, iHeart, Clear Channel, Cumulus, and others. So, I've been around
All right,
many
excellent.
years.
Thank you for taking time out of your
Thank you.
busy schedule to be here.
Extreme. You're welcome.
And Rashad Ritchie, how
What's up,
are
man?
you?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
Dr. Rashad Ritchie.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
So I'm Rashad, the former political director and chief strategist for the Democratic Party for the state, served there for a number of years. Currently, I'm a radio personality for Intercom Radio. That includes News and Talk 1380 WAOK and also V103. I provide political and social commentary for V103. I'm also the on-air political analyst for CBS 46 News. I'm on air every weekday at 6 p.m. on the 6 o'clock news. I'm also a senior staff writer for Rolling Out magazine. I own a few companies. One is Ritchie and Ritchie Consulting, a political consulting firm. We run elections and issues-based campaigns throughout the country. I'm also the founder and CEO of the Rashad Ritchie Foundation, which is a foundation catered toward mentoring at-risk youth, and that's the place I come from. I come from an at-risk environment. I was a foster kid and worked very hard to become a different individual, and so we give back.
All right, excellent. Thank you for taking time to be here as well.
Absolutely.
And for listeners out there and viewers, we have 3 more guests that's going to be calling in throughout the show. Conroy Boxhill, Terrence Shalone, and I've just lost my other guest. But it's 3 guests we got. And my brother, Rick Party.
You forgot about your brother?
I forgot about my brother, right.
Wookie.
He understands.
There's a story. There's a story there somewhere.
So, but Rashad, let's get
Yeah.
to it. You've had a DUI, and,
Yes.
and you're unashamed about it. You're open about it. But take us back to that day or that time. How did you feel when you were going through it?
So the truth is, I've actually been pulled over more than one time for a DUI. I just had a good lawyer. Back then, I was drinking. I was drinking all the time. I had a drinking problem. Now, I don't know if I was an alcoholic. I don't know what it was. I knew that it was creating a problem for me. And I was still operating on this very high level, okay? And I remember coming to the radio station one day, and I was very hungover, okay? I was hungover. I still did my show. I did my show, and I felt like garbage after that. I continued to drink, but I struggled. And I remember the DUI, the last one I got pulled over, and I felt as if this was a deciding moment in my life. Went through that process. It's very expensive, $10,000 easy every time. You pay a good lawyer, you go through the process. But what ended up happening, I ran into a judge. This judge actually was a fan of my show. And he went off the record. This judge went off the record, and he said, Mr. Ritchie, approach the bench. He said, you're far too smart for this. Why are you in my courtroom? And he read me the riot act. He noticed that my life was spinning out of control. Even though I could fake it, I was doing a lot of good in the community and still being the person that I authentically was. I wasn't being somebody else, but I had this problem. I decided that day that I wouldn't drink anymore. I went on air and I told my listeners, I said, I haven't been giving you what you deserve, but I'm going to try. It's been a few years since I've had a drink. You can't pay me to drink today. Now, here's what happened after that. I finished my PhD. I became a college professor. I got television gigs. Now I'm on the nightly news. The same news station that used to report about me, I'm actually the guy on the 6 o'clock news now. I'm also the chief lobbyist for the sheriff's office.
So there was hope after a DUI.
As long as you can authentically tell your story. People don't expect you to be able to tell the truth about other folks if you can't tell the truth about yourself. So I decided I'm a truth teller. Even if that truth stings me, I have to be honest about what it is.
Well, let me say this. Out of all the shows I've done, and this is our 26th show on the station, and I've traveled doing shows like this on premise. Just these last 2 minutes hearing you speak have made this one of the most powerful shows for me. So I appreciate and value you opening up and just saying those words were powerful. I mean, they've touched me dearly. So thank you for that. Let's go to Attorney Patterson. When someone do get pulled over once or twice and, 3 times, what are some tips that you can give a person of do's and don'ts when they're right in the moment of that situation?
Well, first, let me tell you, I'm required to tell you that this is not legal advice, okay, because I'm not actually your lawyer. But I'm going to put it in a scenario that if it was me that was getting pulled over, tell you what I would do. So let's put it that way. That way I'm not held to the standard of giving someone legal advice. Basically, if you've been drinking, and you know you've been drinking, and if you've had a little bit too much, and you get pulled over, the first thing the officer's going to say is that I smell alcohol, or he's going to say that you were weaving. That's the basis of the stop, weaving, failure to maintain lane. And he's going to say, have you been drinking? You've got to remember that everything that you say to him is being recorded on mic and video. So if you say, I've had only 2 drinks, a jury knows that's really 4 or 5 drinks, because everybody says I've had 1 drink or 2 drinks. What I would do, I would say I haven't had anything to drink, because remember, a jury cannot smell the video. They can only see and hear what you say. So if you would say, officer, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. I have not been drinking. Because the moment he smells alcohol, there's a chance you're going to jail anyway. So if you're going to jail, go to jail without giving them evidence to convict you, because you're going to jail. So I would, first of all, not take any field sobriety test. When an officer says, hey, would you get out and walk the line, stand on one leg, you got to remember, those are voluntary. People think you must do that. No, you have a right to say, officer, since I haven't been drinking, I'm not taking any tests. Now, he or she is going to get upset, but at least you're not convicting yourself. That's the first step, is not confess to drinking and don't take any field sobriety test.
All right, there it is. You all heard it firsthand from Attorney Jackie Patterson. We're coming back after
I
break.
didn't know any of that.
Stay tuned. We got a lot more coming
Convicted
for
myself.
And as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me. Whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextsstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Text us with your shout-outs and requests to 678-613-5857. Radio, knock them down.
Thank you for staying tuned to 100 Proof with yours truly, Jay Wesley. We are in the midst of talking about cocktails and journalism. Is there a life after DUI? Hashtag Tipsy Reporter. We've been having great conversation. One of the things we were talking about over break that surprised everyone, or not everybody, Rashad knew this already, but if you use peanut butter before the police officer get to your car or your window, it'll take away the scent of alcohol. And even if you have to take that breathalyzer, it can help what's the word I'm looking for?
Reduce the BAC.
It can reduce the BAC of that test. So keep that in mind. Keep peanut butter in your car if you're going to drink and drive. But we don't recommend it. Don't drink and drive. But Steve here. Steve is the CEO of 87.7 here, a station that I have stumbled across, especially since you all got my man on there, Afternoon, Michael Baisden. I tune in to listen to him. But you have recently have hired someone with the DUI. So tell us, what was the thought process, or did that even come up? What goes into a decision to bring someone on board that have a past of DUI?
Well, let me first of all thank God that after 30 years of being in many cities, from D.C. to Atlanta to Houston, that I've never received one. And I've been stopped by the police before, but never received one. But I think it's primarily from our standpoint. We look for talented people. Everybody makes mistakes. I mean, we've had people with drug problems in radio. We've had people with alcoholic problems, whether it's, cocaine, marijuana, pills. In entertainment business, there are people with many flaws. So we have to look at, how have they rehabilitated? Have they been rehabilitated? And the person that you're speaking of we had a number of conversations prior to us hiring this individual. And we went through a series of challenges and tests to see if the person had, been sober over a time period, and the person had, and we decided to move forward with hiring them. It's been over a year and also almost 2 years now, and we haven't had any challenges, any relapses, any backslides, any of the above, and we're very pleased that we made that investment in this employee.
So taking it to a different standpoint, if there is an employee that's already there and they get a DUI, how do you handle that situation?
I mean, first of all, that's a personal situation. Whether it's a person on a big station like a V103 or a person on a small station like WAOK, the individual is still a human being. And we look at that as a situation that he or she needs to handle. Obviously that there is some effect or some impact on whatever radio, TV station, newspaper that the person works for. It depends on how serious it is. We've had a number of DJs who've been stopped and arrested for having, marijuana on them, alcohol, guns. I've been in radio for 30 years. I've managed a number of employees.
So does the matter of how public it becomes, does that have a greater impact on their
success
Yeah,
not necessarily. I mean, one thing I'll say is we as African Americans or as black people, we are very, very forgiving of all of us. I mean, we forgave OJ, we forgive everybody. We just forgive people. We forgive our people, and we all know that we all make mistakes. If you don't believe me, just go downtown to the courthouse. And the hard part for me is that is my demo, especially for streets. Mm-hmm. It is nothing but young black African Americans in the damn courtroom. So they have a grammar. It's all about having marijuana on them. Just go sit there. I said, I wish I could just take ppm meters to the courtroom.
Right.
We'd be number one. Just take them to the courtroom. It's full of our people. Now, why do they drive with marijuana in the car? They know they're going to get stopped, or a gun and marijuana in the car.
Right.
You know there is a chance when you get behind the wheel, whether you've been drinking or you've got some weed on you, you could get stopped.
Attorney Patterson, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, it is no question that, if you're going to have marijuana, you need to leave it at home, because once you start driving and you weave or run a red light, and when the officer smells that marijuana, keep in mind, Georgia law says he can search your car. That's probable cause. Mm-hmm. And he's going to bring a drug dog as well. And once that dog alerts, he's going to ask you to get out and find that marijuana, and you're going to jail.
Rashad, what's your thoughts on this, the race piece of it?
I think it's relevant. One of the strongest people in journalism I've ever met was Amanda Davis. For those who do not know Amanda Davis, she passed away recently, but she had a series of DUIs over the course of her career. Some of them were hidden and some of them were very public. She lost her job. She was a news anchor. She's the main person. She lost her job over the DUI, the last DUI she got, but she rebounded. Her and I became really good friends. We toured throughout the Atlanta metropolitan area together, but people were very forgiving of her because she decided to authentically tell her story, not cover it up. But there's a nuance. Let's be really honest. There's a nuance to the conversation about addiction. We want to throw people away. Addiction is a mental health disorder. If you're addicted to a substance, to alcohol, we need to help you, not incarcerate you. And she told that story. She told her own story rather than allowing other people to narrate it. And I think it helped her tremendously. Here's the connection I have to Amanda. Amanda called me one day. I'm at the radio station. I'm doing my thing on radio. She said, Rashad, we have a new news director at CBS 46. I want you to meet him. My schedule was jam-packed for 2 weeks. Couldn't make it happen. She brought this man to V103 and WLK. We went down. We had lunch right after my show. We hit it off, right? A few weeks later, they're bringing cameras in my studio to record me doing what I do on radio. I get an invite to come to the station. Then I get an invite to become the on-air political analyst every now and then. Then I get the invite to be there every day at 6 o'clock.
I see you.
Yeah, you see me. And I never forget the day, it was 15 minutes before I had to go on air on CBS 46, and the news director said, Amanda Davis is dead.
Oh, wow.
And it rocked my world.
Condolences to Amanda Davis. She was a media icon.
Yes.
Our prayers are still with you, your family, and your
But
daughter.
she left on top.
Yes,
she was on top.
Yep. So we're going to break. Stay tuned. We got other guests coming back and calls in this third segment.
The Women of Power Summit, brought to you by Black Enterprise, highlighting the best in Black excellence for over 4 decades. This year's summit will be held in Florida, and we're inviting all of our listeners to come and enjoy the magic. March 7th through the 10th, 4 days in sunny Orlando with over 1,000 energized, influential women, intentional in growth and substance over competition. Undivided is how we'll stand with the Women of Power. It's the summit you can't afford to miss, from the Macy's shopping party to the ultimate girls' night turn-up or the 13th annual Legacy Awards with previous recipients like Alfred Woodard, Henry Greer, Vanessa Williams, Felicia Rashad, Ruby D, to this year's Donna Brazil, Jim Kennedy Overton, Carmen D. Lavallard, and Edith Cooper. It's power on your own terms. Jerry G from Sensation Station's Destiny Talk will be your guide for your ultimate summit experience. Stop right now. Go to ssnatl.com to start your powerful journey. Click the links for more info or go to blackenterprise.com/WPS.
Women are power. Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids, but we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction. Invest $49 a month at a real gym. For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextsstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Thank you for staying tuned to 100 Proof. We are discussing cocktails and journalism. Can journalists rebound from a DUI? On the phone line, we have a call-in guest. We have Mr. Conroy. How are you, sir?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. So take a moment and tell us about yourself, Conroy.
Sure. So Conroy Boxell, I'm local in Atlanta right now, formerly New York, London, working for Element Public Relations, one of the largest public relations firm out there, and I ran their crisis and issues management practice in the South region. So, and now I own a firm called Gladiator RMS, and my focus is on promoting and protecting reputation.
So you are the male version of Olivia Pope, to say the least.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. The way I like to tell people is the only people that usually are happy when I show up are my wife and my kids. Usually everyone says, oh boy, something's happened.
So you do crisis management for individuals and corporations, correct?
That's correct.
So if you were representing, well, I guess first, how devastating is it for someone's career and image once receiving a DUI if they're a public figure, and how hard or easy is that to repair?
I think one of your earlier guests says it just really depends on the situation. It's not a one size fits all circumstance. It depends on if you're a really high profile figure, if you're an up and comer, if your social media is really popping and people are paying attention to you. It really just depends on your circumstances as an individual.
So if you were representing an individual who's high profile, received a DUI or multiple DUIs, what's that conversation like with them? How do you walk them through that process to regain their career?
I mean, I think, a lot of it depends on if you're really handling it as a personal situation or if the circumstances are such that it's really public and so it has a material impact on your employer. I think that changes the dynamic of everything, because if it impacts your employer, then it's a very public matter, likely to involve a lot of social media, news coverage, again, depending on the profile figure. Now, the conversation simply goes like this. Where do you want to go from here? Because the reality of the situation is you can't escape it. It's going to be a matter of public record, and you've got attorneys in the studio with you, so I'll defer to them on that. But from a reputation perspective, if you're a public figure, an entertainment reporter on radio, on TV, the beat reporters who are covering the courthouse, it's easy pickings for them to run that back and run a news item. And so my first conversation is going to be, how prepared are you to absorb the initial blow? So by that is, have you had the conversation with your employer? Have you had the conversation with other stakeholders that are really important to your reputation? Because they're likely the ones that are going to be called first to either validate that you have a problem, to dig dirt on you. So you've got to figure out, my first conversation is, let's get the facts straight and let's figure out who's likely going to be the first set of people that are going to be called about you. Because chances are you need to get to those people before the media do, if you're someone in high profile. And it could be our strategy is we're saying nothing. Or if you're contacted, direct them to this PR person or this attorney. So my first strategy counsel to my client would be, let's get aligned on the facts and aligned on the messaging and the story we want to tell.
All right, and then if you're representing a news outlet, if it's CBS 46 or if it's Steve's station, how do you manage a client for the station's reputation to keep it intact?
Like I love what your guest said earlier about it's a personal matter, right? But if it spills over and it questions the judgment of that radio station, that news outlet, then that has real business implications and it stretches beyond just a personal matter. So I think my advice in that situation would be, you don't also, as an employer, want to seem like you're being dismissive and lack empathy for what your employee's going through. But it does come down to a question of judgment. And so I think as an employer, what my counsel would be, can we evaluate this as is this something that realistically we can say, it was an individual choice and people make mistakes and we believe that people can come back from that. So a lot of it is going to go to the value set of that organization and whether or not they believe in that kind of supportive framework for employees.
Steve, you're shaking your head over here. What's your thoughts on what he's saying?
I mean, if I worked for CBS or Intercom or a company that's a Fortune 500 company, or even Radio One, the mindset may be different. Individual companies or independent companies, smaller companies, small mom and pop companies, we can have the freedom or the liberty to be able to forgive someone that may fall into this category, and we have. I recall being at Radio 1, and a number of instances happened like this, and from just being a publicly traded company, it was very difficult to hire someone back that may have, used bad judgment in one way or another.
Rashad, how do you feel your stations treated you when you found yourself in this situation? Do you think it could have been better or handled differently?
It was handled appropriately because I responded appropriately as well. I wanted out of that. One of the elements we don't discuss much when talking about things like this is branding, personal branding. Who are you, right? I come from the hood. I was about that life, made a lot of mistakes. By the grace of God, was able to overcome a lot of it. But I've always maintained a sincerity with how I interact. Not only interact with people, but also with life. I still made mistakes. I was very clear about me being a flawed individual that had vices. I'm 36 today. I'm a university professor with a PhD, okay? I'm 36. I've made those mistakes. But I've also articulated those mistakes, and I did not allow you or anybody else to hijack my story because I was upfront about my story. I'm still rocking. I'm talented on air, talented on television, and I have a strong following. Because of those things coupled together, as well as an authentic brand, it helped me to overcome the issues that I presented in front of myself.
All right, Conroy, before we leave, we got 15 seconds. You want to leave us with any final tips or thoughts?
Yeah, I think my advice to the public that's out there listening is if you do find, first is don't do it. Second is if you do find yourself in those circumstances, you need two people to call. The first call should be to your attorney. The next should be to a person that has a crisis management background, because what you really need in those moments is a strategy. And what I tell all clients is emotion clouds judgment. And so if you think that you can steer yourself through that situation, you are sadly mistaken, because you're all up in your feelings whether or not you know it. So get someone who's not in your feelings. That's my advice.
All right. Thank you, sir, for tuning in. We're coming right back with 100 Proof.
What's a dumb way to listen to an awesome mix of urban hits? Start off.
Sensation Station Network.
Too much sauce.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Women of Power Summit, brought to you by Black Enterprise, highlighting the best in Black excellence for over 4 decades. This year's summit will be held in Florida, and we're inviting all of our listeners to come and enjoy the magic. March 7th through the 10th, 4 days in sunny Orlando with over 1,000 energized and influential women, intentional in growth and substance over competition. Undivided is how we'll stand with the Women of Power. It's the summit you can't afford to miss, from the Macy's shopping party to the Ultimate Girls Night Turn-Up or the 13th Annual Legacy Awards with previous recipients like Alfred Woodard, Henry Greer, Vanessa Williams, Felicia Rashad, Ruby D, to this year's Donna Brazil, Jen Kennedy Overton, Carmen D. Lavalade, and Edith Cooper. It's power on your own terms. Jerry G from Sensation Station's Destiny Talk will be your guide for your ultimate summit experience. Stop right now. Go to ssnatl.com to start your powerful journey. Click the links for more info or go to blackenterprise.com/WPS.
Women are power.
Thanks for staying tuned to 100 Proof with Jay Wesley. We are talking about cocktails and journalists. Is there a second chance after DUI? Hashtag Tipsy Reporter. We are in the midst of our Calls in this third segment. This is where you can go to Facebook, go to the Sensation Stations network page, and type in your questions. Meanwhile, we have a couple people to chime in. We have Cherry Griffin. She said, so will cinnamon and or peppermint. Crystal Brown says, I think carrying around peanut butter is more work than drinking and driving. Lord have mercy. Tanisha Bell says, great guest tonight. Death informative, intellectual, solid substance, and all black men. I did realize that I booked a show with all men. And on the phone line right now, we have Terrence Shalone. He is the HR Director of Recruiting for Cox Media. How are you, Terrence?
I'm doing well.
All right. I know you're getting over a cold or flu, so I thank you for taking time for being part of this show. So tell us how this works from a HR perspective.
Absolutely. Well, I think the guests and the guests already have touched on a lot of the facts in terms of things that goes into consideration. But what I'll focus on is a couple things that employers would do or look at or think about after an employee has been arrested for DUI. And that is focusing on the facts only. Does the employee drive for the company? What is their brand? How big are they for the employer? And I think Conrad talked about it when he said, determine the effect on the business, if any. I think that is going to be really big and key in terms of the decisions that are made. So, how would the organization be affected? The company may figure the liability of, how is the liability for the employer going to look? Is it going to make them look bad? With them keeping him or her on with the organization. So those are things that will go into decisions. Some other things is going to be the policy. So in addition to, you think about the handbook, we oftentimes sign that and we don't truly read it, right? And so a lot of key things that impact us in terms of our own personal decisions really falls in that employee handbook. And then, of course, in journalism, it's going to be your contract. What does your contract say? So those are all things that will have some impact on HR's decision. I think you have to look at will employment jurisdiction for your area. And, again, the big thing is the employee contract. Does it have a clear statement that DUI breaches the contract in some way?
So, Attorney Patterson, what are your thoughts on a news reporter being charged versus convicted? Can an employer, in your opinion, terminate someone only for a charge?
Absolutely. I've had many clients charged with DUIs or simple battery or drug charges, and they were terminated within 24 to 48 hours, and we never even went to court. Georgia is an at-will state. So unless you have a contract, your employer can let you go for any reason that doesn't violate federal or state law.
So Cox Media is known to be kind of strict around these policies. However, WSB found themselves in a situation within the last year with a news reporter. However, she's still on air. I'm sure I'm not asking you to speak on that situation, but Terrence, can you tell us how is it possible for a news reporter to receive a DUI and still remain on air on television without any lapse?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of the discussion. When you look at Cox and their company values, that's probably the big decision there, why they gave that opportunity. They have the employee assistance programs. Another piece, you have to be careful with DUI because it could be considered drinking or alcoholism could be considered a disability.
Correct.
So I think, Cox is very good about giving you an opportunity or chance, and we have resources in place that you can take, and we're going to refer you out to that. I think, what happens is if it continues to be a problem, then that's a whole nother situation.
All right, Terrence, thanks for that information. We stay tuned. We have Hot Spots coming up and International Sips. We'll be right back. 100 Proof.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda, that's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya.
What's a dumb way to listen to an awesome mix of urban hits? Start off.
Station Network.
Too much sauce.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction. Invest $49 a month at a real gym. For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
Thank you for staying tuned to 100 Proof. We are in the midst of talking about cocktails and journalists. Can they sip and drive? And if they do and get caught, is there life after that? Right now on the phone line, we have my brother, Rick Party. We're both from Chicago. He's been all over the nation as an on-air personality right now in Miami. But I'll let you introduce yourself, big bruh.
I mean, you've done a great job. I've been in radio a little over 30 years. I worked everywhere from Chicago. I'm mostly synonymous with Chicago and WGCI. Here in Miami, worked in Atlanta at B103 for a couple years. Worked in New York, Dallas, all over the place. But, you know, really quick, I remember one story, and Steve Hegwood may not remember this, but when I worked in Macon, Georgia, I was working at a small FM station. It was my first FM station, commercial station, and Steve Hegwood actually gave me a call when he was in Houston to say, hey, are you ready for the big league? Steve, you probably don't remember this.
That sounds like him, though.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You gave me you were in Houston, and I was just about 19 years old, or 20 years old.
You've been at it a long time. So, big bro, if you can tell us, what are your thoughts on this conversation? Do you think maybe being in the spotlight, being in the media, whether it's on air television, whether it's on air with radio, put pressure on people to drink, maybe to be socialized or to go out and mingle with folks? What's your thoughts on that?
I can't say that it puts pressure on people, but I can speak for myself. I mean, growing up an introvert, being, loudmouth on the radio, but privately, when you take that microphone away from me, and, that's like my strength. So for me to actually be able to converse with people, I would have like a little sip, and it would kind of loosen me up a little bit. So all of a sudden I had superhuman powers. I could talk to women, I could be loud on the mic. I could walk around the club. And by the time the night was over, I consumed so many drinks. I remember, working here in Miami some years ago, like my first time around back in like the early 90s, being 20-something years old, leaving South Beach, being so drunk, I don't even know how I got home. I swear, I don't know how I made it home. I mean, I thank God for getting me from point A to point B without having an accident, without, hurting anyone. I mean, God, but that little thing right there, being an introvert, having a couple of drinks, and then you start, not only does it loosen you up, then they have these flavored drinks that taste so great, and you want more and more. And y'all know about those Long Island teas back in the day. Good Lord, they sneak up on you. Oh, yeah.
So, Rashad, what's your thoughts on this? Do you feel that, have you ever felt pressure to drink maybe just to loosen you up, or because you're in the spotlight and just to wow out?
Absolutely. It started for me back during the political days when I started rising in the ranks at the Democratic Party, becoming an executive, hanging out, we celebrated everything. We celebrated losses as long as we didn't lose by a lot, right? So we celebrated every night. And we're talking about a whole lot of white liberals, okay? And these white boys can drink you under the table. But that started my journey to consistent drinking. And that consistent drinking created a chemical dependency where I felt off if I wasn't drinking, right? So I went through that process. I don't feel that pressure anymore. I have a wine cellar at my house. I don't mind people drinking in front of me. I simply won't touch this stuff because for me, it's a problem. For you, it may not be a problem, and I don't want to make it a problem for you. And I'm thankful to God. God rescued me out of that spiral out of control. And so I'm standing strong today, open about my story.
All right, amen. So we are in the midst of our On Fire segment. This is where we tell you about hot topics around the beverage industry. And today on CBS Morning News with Gail, can't think of the name of her show, they talked about alcohol actually makes you live longer, studies show. So, Brother Patterson, what's your thoughts? Would you drink? I don't know if you drink or not.
I do.
All right, excellent. That's good to know. So what's your thoughts on hearing that drinking makes you live longer?
You know, I think if it's I'm not a doctor, but in moderation it's possible because I'm a very light drinker, and when I drink, I get a little buzz, but not intoxicated.
Right.
But it seems like it just kind of makes you relax and just enjoy yourself. But yes, I didn't start drinking until I was 40 years old. So I'm really new at it. I'm 58 now, of course, but I started drinking very late.
All right. And so, Rick, I'm not sure where you are with your drinking, but I know you to be a light drinker at this point. Am I correct?
I would say a light drinker. When I say light drinker, I'm talking about like maybe holidays, a glass of champagne or something like that. But yeah, that's about it.
So
and
you're
I'm
virtually
not really
a non-drinker, virtually. So, but what's
pretty much? Yeah, I'm a non-drinker.
So you hearing this studies show that alcohol makes you drink longer? Does that entice you to maybe have a drink?
That it makes me drink longer? No, I mean it scares me because quite honestly, being a child of an alcoholic, my father. I mean the thought of wanting to drink and have that life, I'm just definitely not with it, man.
All right, and Rashad, what's your thoughts real quick on drinking makes you live longer? Does that make you want to go back and drink some more?
The hell no. No, because I would die sooner if I drank because of how it affected me, right?
All right. Well, Rick, thanks for tuning in. We're going to go to break. We're coming back with Hot Spots. Stay tuned. 100 Proof with Jay Wesley.
Station Network.
Break yourself, fool! Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids. But we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it. And it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ. And He guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
The Women of Power Summit, brought to you by Black Enterprise, highlighting the best in Black excellence for over 4 decades. This year's summit will be held in Florida, and we're inviting all of our listeners to come and enjoy the magic. March 7th through the 10th, 4 days in sunny Orlando with over 1,000 energized and influential women, intentional in growth and substance over competition. Undivided is how we'll stand with the Women of Power. It's the summit you can't afford to miss, from the Macy's shopping party to the Ultimate Girls Night Turn-Up or the 13th Annual Legacy Awards with previous recipients like Alfred Woodard, Henry Greer, Vanessa Williams, Felicia Rashad, Ruby D, to this year's Donna Brazil, Jen Kennedy Overton, Carmen D. Lavalade, and Edith Cooper. It's power on your own terms. Jerry G from Sensation Station's Destiny Talk will be your guide for your ultimate summit experience. Stop. Right now, go to ssnatl.com to start your powerful journey. Click the links for more info or go to blackenterprise.com/WPS.
Women are power.
Thank you for staying tuned to 100 Proof with yours truly, Jay Wesley. We've had an excellent conversation talking about cocktails and journalists. How do they rebound from a DUI? So hopefully you all learned something. We are in the midst of our Hotspot segment, and I had the privilege of being part of a traveling talk show called Raising the Bar. Raising the Bar is with Julian, so I'm not going to go all into it. I'll let him explain it. How are you, Julian?
Good, thank you, Jay. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
Excellent. So Julian is a cast member of Greenleaf with Oprah Winfrey. He was handpicked by her to play in Greenleaf, and so he's created his own talk show, which I was a guest on tonight here in Atlanta, Georgia. So why don't you tell everybody what your traveling talk show is all about, Julian?
Well, Raising the Bar. First of all, thank you, Jay Wesley, for joining us tonight. We had an awesome time. People really felt like what you had to say was informative and it was beneficial for what they got going on in their lives. So thank you for your Cocktail Chronicles.
No, it's my pleasure.
Raising the Bar is a talk show that focuses on women empowerment. All it is, we're having a great time, a great party, performing artists, and identifying and honoring and highlighting dynamic women from different cities and communities across the world now, being that we've partnered up with IAW, which is the International Association of Women. And this just exposes us, allows us an opportunity to bring millennial women, Generation X, and baby boomers all together to have open forum conversations, and they can see and have some good role models to look at for them, specifically for the millennial women.
So what I did this evening was talk to the women about the different perceptions that society have on women drinking. Right. Can women drink hard liquor? Why do women, especially black women, order all sweet drinks, fruity drinks and sweet Moscato, and just told them how to navigate through different social environments when alcohol is part of it. And an example of that was if you're dealing with men and as a woman you're drinking a fruity drink, unconsciously you're losing respect from those men by drinking that fruity drink. You really need to try to go with something neat and hard, whether it's Hennessy, Jack, whatever the case might be, but versus a fruity drink. So, Julian, what are some of the other cities that you're going to?
Oh, man, we got Dallas, we got D.C., Vegas, L.A., Miami, Houston, Austin, New York, Chicago, Philly. I mean, we're going to go all over the country. Then we're going to go out to China at some point, South Africa. I mean, we're going all over the world with this. So I'm just grateful and excited about it all.
And what I admire about you is that this is a woman's space, a woman's empowerment space that you have tapped into as a male. So where can people find you, Julian?
For the talk show, Raising the Bar, is rtbtalkshow.com. Website, all of the social media handles are at RTB Talk Show. And then check me out, I'm just here to help. All right. So to check me out, they can just check me out, Julian Battano with 2 T's. That's it, Julian Battano on any social media you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you, Julian, for tuning in, and I hope to see you before you leave the city, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, no problem. So we are in the midst at this point with our International Sip segment. This is where we tell you typically what to drink, what not to drink, and we normally have product here, but today we're drinking water. We want to give an example to journalists to not drink and drive, so we're drinking water on the air. But I'm going to go around the table and allow my guests to give some final thoughts of what they want people to take away from this conversation. Steve?
I would just say be responsible. I mean, we've talked about this, all evening long or the past hour, to be responsible. All of us have been young before. We want to drink and drive and go out and party, as Rick Party talked about, or your other guests talked about, just being young and celebrating, or whatever the case may be. You need to be responsible and take ownership of your actions. I mean, if you know you're driving, you can only have maybe one drink, and that's it. a casual drink, and you've got to go drive home. The best thing about nowadays is with Uber, Lyft, and everything else, there should be no reason for DUI. I'm sorry. I mean, most of us have Uber on our phones or Lyft on our phones. I have left my vehicle a number of places and gotten an Uber or called a friend or called Uber for one of my friends, and that's what I recommend. So.
All right, excellent. And where can people find you at?
Steve Hegwood at Gmail, STEVEHEGWOOD at gmail.com.
All righty. Mr. Patterson, Attorney Patterson.
Well, I certainly say I do not recommend that you drink and drive, but if you do get stopped, you want to make sure you don't walk the line.
I thought you was going to say you want to give me a call.
Well, that's after the fact.
If you get stopped, call me.
You don't
877.
You don't want to walk the line, and when you do get taken into custody, they're going to take you to jail and ask you to blow into this machine at the jail. For heaven's sake, refuse that, because that is the official test. Because that's if you blow a .8 or more, you're good as sunk, unless you hire me. And so, if at that point, you can reach me at JackiePatterson.com.
What are the chances of people getting rid of a DUI or beating a DUI?
Your chances are much better if you refuse all tests. Because if you take the test, my job is a little bit more difficult because I got to look for technical issues to try to get the test results thrown out.
All right, there it is. You heard it first here on 100 Proof with yours truly, Jay Wesley. Be sure to follow me at Cocktail Cron, the number one. Cron is CHRON, at Cocktail Cron, number one. And we will see you next Tuesday from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. right here on the Sensation Station Network.
Think you can do this to me? I'm the man up in this piece. Sensation Station Network.
Came into the game, no one replace me. Me love my Hennessy strip, me no chaser. All of my guys know me all about me paper. Me got me girls all around me, me no chaser. Yeah, star boy call me number one. When me tune drop, the girls they bounce along. Me don't let nothing come between me and me paper. So when me come in at the place, me undertaker. Yeah, 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 yeah.